Dr. Fox and Representative Takano, thank you for coming to testify before us today. We appreciate your time. I'm a member of the Education and Workforce Committee, and we had a robust hearing on this bill. I'm glad we're discussing this important issue today. I'm going to start out by saying something I never thought I would have to say in the Rules Committee or anywhere in Congress for that matter, but here it is. Women and men are different. That's not meant to be controversial. It's not mean-spirited. It's not outlandish. Or anything other than a factual statement. But perhaps I can be a little more specific. Women and men are physically different. Biological males do have competitive advantages related to size, height, and muscle mass. Women and men have different physical characteristics, and that is okay. But this is why Title IX exists, to ensure that despite these differences, women and men have the same opportunities in competition and for scholarship. Here are just some statistics for us to consider. Specifically, in the context of athletics, one study coming from the Duke University School of Law's Center for Sports Law and Policy notes the various differences between male and female athletes leads to a 10 to 12% performance gap between the sexes in athletic competition. Dr. Fox, I'd like to ask a simple question. If women and men are different, as this study suggests, other studies in common sense also suggest, is it unfair to allow biological men to compete in women's sports?
Yes.
Of course it is. That was a quick answer. I've seen the real effects of this. My two daughters are swimmers. And if they had to compete against biological males, which they have not yet, they would be outperformed by their male counterparts. I've seen the real effect of this in one swimmer named Riley Gaines. We've talked about her a little bit tonight. I actually spoke with her Friday about her experiences competing against a biological male. She was candid in her response, but respectful. And I'd like to just read a little bit from her statement. She says, in her own words, "In addition to being forced to give up our awards, our titles, our opportunities, the NCAA forced female swimmers to share a locker room with Leah Thomas, a 6'4", 22-year-old male equipped with and exposing male genitalia. We were not asked for our consent, and we did not give our consent. Unfortunately, my experience is not unique, and that's why I ask you to please pass H.R. 734. The number of female athletes who've been denied opportunities, traumatized, or hurt by policies that claim to promote inclusion is growing at an alarming rate. This is simply unacceptable, and the integrity of women's sports is eroding." Mr. Chairman, I would like unanimous consent to add this to the record.
Without objection.
So a couple of things I'd like to point out. Female fighter in the MMA fought against transgender MMA fighter Fallon Fox. This took place in 2014. Fallon Fox beat her female opponent, Tamika Brent, so severely she suffered a broken skull. In addition, there have been studies to show that in soccer, for instance, women are more susceptible to concussions than their male counterparts. Forbes magazine did an article that quotes exactly why women seem more vulnerable to these injuries remains largely unknown. Several theories, some biological and others cultural. Biologically, sex differences in neck musculature seem to be the most common explanation. Young women have less developed neck muscles than their male counterparts, and strong necks in men means the head doesn't move quite as much when there's an impact. It would simply be dangerous to put men, biological men, in many of these women's sports. And then, in addition to that, it is just fundamentally unfair. Allowing biological males to compete against female athletes is not progress. It takes away opportunities for females in sports. It brings me to questions like, what about biological females on the team? What about other women on the team? Who will stand for them? And I'm proud of Riley Gaines for standing for those women, and I will stand with them too. I think the Democrats want us to believe that there is no difference, that it should just be, as we've heard today, that biological men should be in locker rooms with biological women. As a parent, I don't think it has to necessarily be either or. We've heard leaders in this industry talk about open classes. Why we're forcing this issue on our young women in an uncompetitive way makes absolutely no sense to me. This bill couldn't be more important to our young female athletes. I will stand with our young female athletes, our student athletes, to protect them. I'm proud to be a supporter of this bill. I yield back the balance of my time.